Yes. So, how do you follow up with "she's awesome"? Like that's such a pedestal to get put on. Yep. So, couple of corrections. So, I have 2 maternity leaves under my belt. So this is my family. I have twins, James and Josephine. This is their first birthday, and Claire is a 3.5-year-old on the other side, and they're actually up in the childcare today. I've been doing a number of hats today, organising the conference and speaking today, and I'm also sort of at the BB stand, so you'll see me floating about all over the place. So this was the talk I had planned to do at Women Tech Makers, but unfortunately due to illness I wasn't able to do it on the day. But I kind of want to get a sense of the room. To be honest, more yous turned up than I thought there would. What are people kind of hoping? Like, are you interested in taking time off yourselves, or is it more supporting other people, or were all the other rooms full and you just had to come here? Don't be shy. Like,
supporting other people.
Supporting other people. Anybody else for taking time off themselves? Cool. Maternities or traveling or?
Maternity in the future, especially if you're early on in your career, how that potentially impacts.
Gonna touch on that. Anyone? Any other stuff that went?
Burnout recovery.
What was that? Recovery?
Burnout recovery.
Okay, cool.
And supporting other people.
Cool. So, yep, I have 14 years, so during that time, so yes, I had 2 maternity leaves. Big difference between the 2 maternity leaves and stuff that I learned from the first one that I applied in the second one and had a massive difference in my career. Also, the support I have gotten of various different people has had a big impact as well, so I'm going to touch on that as well. So kind of what I want you to kind of come away with today is I want you to be able to get away so you can plan better for yourselves and go away with a couple of wee nuggets of either what you can do for yourselves to plan for your year off or whatever amount of time you want off, and also as well, if you're supporting other people, then what you can do. And certainly now I've got both sides of the fence on that one, now being an officially and a manager. So when should you take a year off? There are lots of theories around this, and I've read tons of articles, and they're very competing. Some people say you're better off to have your time off very early on in your career, so then your career is unbroken then going forward, so you can always take whatever opportunities. Because when you're junior, there's not as much responsibilities, there's not as big a expectation, whereas when you're further up in your career, there could be more of a need on you as like a technologist or a manager that has more of an impact in the organisation. You just don't know, because it's up to you. Everyone is different. You will only know yourselves what you want to do, because you can take time off for any reason. It doesn't have to be maternity, paternity, could be surprise, like a family member could be sick. You could win X Factor or the Rose of Tralee, and that's a year off there. So it could be absolutely anything, and like it doesn't have to be a year. It can be like a lot of companies will offer sabbaticals. A lot of places you could just take off extended periods of time. A lot of places now will offer career breaks. You can literally do anything. Go climb Everest. That you can't do that on the weekend. Like, you could take time off for absolutely anything. It really depends on you. Like, there is competing theories, because like if you take time off later on in your career, you've got the money to then go do things. You've made your career. You've got to where you want to go, and then you can take time off. To be honest, I know people who have done both, and it hasn't affected them either way, because they've done other things that have kind of compensated for the fact that you maybe have a year gap in your CV. A year's gap in your CV is perfectly fine. Like as a manager, when I'm looking at CVs and things, I'm only concerned when I see a gap if there's no reason for it. So just having a random gap that you just sat at home and did nothing for a year, that's kind of like, really? You didn't do anything fun in that time? Go traveling, traveling, like you've got a lot of transferable skills from traveling. Same way with caring for people, like running a household, there's a lot of transferable skills to management and to team management and to dealing with people. Like, it's all transferable stuff. So like, when I'm looking at CVs, it's perfectly fine to have gap year to go traveling, maternity leave. In fact, a lot of the time you don't even really need to put your gaps on your CV. Most of the time you don't really care. It's more, as a manager, I am more interested in your experience, your skill set, and what you can offer me coming to work for me. So to be honest, gaps aren't really a big thing that I would really even look for in a CV. And it's certainly something that I've never really asked anyone about in an interview either. I've done a lot of interviews and I've never once gone, oh, what did you do there for? Like, I haven't asked a single person that once. What I'm more interested in is, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to, where's your experience? Where's your passion lie? What are those sort of things? Those are things that I'm much more interested in. So if we talk then about sort of preparation, so you've decided that you're going to take your time off, or you just want to make sure that you're in the best position possible, so that if something surprise kind of happens, you know, like you have twins unexpectedly, that you're in a good position for that. And a lot of this stuff is kind of very generic, that kind of can apply to anyone in terms of just progressing your career. And kind of what I want to sort of you to take away from these things is it's more a case of you want to put yourself in a position that your employer goes, this person is so good, I do not want to lose them. I don't care if they go away for a year or 6 months or 5 months, I want them to come back to me because I don't want to lose them. So you want to be a valuable employee. So if you're great at doing your job and delivering, so I'm sure there's other talks and what I expect, and there's 2 people I manage in this room here, so I expect them to deliver first and foremost. So whatever project it is that we are assigned, no matter what it is that you do, we have to get the job done. Like as much as companies are all great, they are paying you to deliver a software or a project first and foremost. So that always has to come first. Second thing then is the value that you add. So that's when you're sort of, you know, promoting your company outside, coming and doing talks and things like this, going to meetups, those sort of things where you're adding value, you're promoting your business, you're progressing yourself, you're learning, you're not just all about your day job, you're actually sort of thinking, that's when that sort of value kind of comes in. So if you're one of those employees that I do not want to lose, I'm more than happy let you go off for a year or 2 and come back because I want you. It's better for me to have you than to not have you. Lose you for a while and then come back is much more of a value to me rather than to just wave for you bye-bye and never see you again. With that though, you gotta check your employer's policies. So maternity and paternity are different because there's legal responsibilities around that where an employer has to respect and keep your job for, I guess they have to keep the same job for 9 months if you're a female and you have a baby. Well, you can do shared paternity now, but you have to check the policies. Or it's like you're guaranteed your job for a year, but it may be a slightly different job. It's something like that there. But see if you're traveling, or I think it's a sick leave, it's slightly different again. So you need to check what the policies are. But more around just taking time off or like, you know, just having a career break or stuff like that there, it's best to get those things in written agreements with your HR so that you have a written agreement that you can return back to your job after 6 months, a year, or whatever. So it's nice to have that piece of paper that kind of you have that, because you don't know what can happen in a year. Things can change in terms of a business and an organisation. It could get bought over. There could be a change in management who may have very different personalities and may have very different priorities of what they expect of their staff. But if you have that written agreement that you are guaranteed your job after whatever amount of time, maternity, you don't need to worry about that. There's usually HR stuff, and same with paternity as well. But it's more if you're taking time off to go traveling, if you're just taking time off to go for a break, to just like develop yourself. Those are the ones that you kind of need more of a written agreement on. So when you are going off, then, so you've one X factor. You've got your travel for your year, your everything that you're going to go on your tour. These are things that are kind of good to kind of do. So get your written agreements. Make sure to hand off everything. There's nothing more frustrating than someone who just waltzes off and leaves projects half hanging, don't do any knowledge transfer. You've maybe booked a load of conferences and stuff, you've set up stands and stuff, and now you get a call from an exhibitor going, are you paying your money for your stand at this conference next week? And you're like, what conference? Like, hand over everything. Make sure you tie up all your loose ends, because that'll instantly annoy me that whenever you come back, I'll be more harsh. And be clear on what the expectation is of you. So if they're expecting you to go off, how much to keep in contact, how much to keep in touch, get those things about what their employer expects of you while you're away. The flip side of that is, as colleagues, what we can do to support people is very similar to what you do just in general. You want to develop and mentor your people, create them the opportunities, give them the opportunities to learn and progress and develop. It's your benefit as well, regardless of whether it's a peer or a manager or a tech lead or anything. Like, the more you develop and mentor and help your people, the better they are and the more valuable they are. Don't crush their dreams. If someone comes to you and says, I want to go to Himalayas for a year to kind of explore and see things, make sure that you support that and go, do it. Why not? Put your money aside, think about it, plan it. We'll be here for you when you come back. Come back and we'll get the paperwork and stuff sorted out. And then no scary stories. The amount of people who tell you about scary stories of, my friend went to India and never come back. They got lost in the outback in Australia. Like those sort of stories, maternity ones are ridiculous. Like the amount of people who tell you the most horrendous stories of childbirth, and you're like, I don't need to know that. So I would say ease off on the scary stories. Be supportive. Don't crush people's dreams. There's nothing worse than someone coming in all enthusiastic with a plan to go traveling, and someone's just just ruins it by going, oh, I was there and it was no good. Try not to be that person. So you get your year off or your 6 months. And you're all excited and you've handed over all your stuff and you've got all your agreements and you're waltzing out the door. Enjoy it. Like you've put all this effort to taking in your time off, commit to it. Don't be stressing about your career and constantly worrying about should I be doing this. That's what I did in my first maternity. I wanted to get promoted and like missed out on promotion, and then like I was really stressing my maternity, making sure that it wasn't forgotten about and stuff like that there. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have. And like you got this time off, really grab it with both hands and enjoy it because they don't come that often. So for this next slide is very maternity specific. So these are wee things that kind of helped me whenever I was off for anyone with children. Play Hooray is like an Instagram account where they like give loads of ideas for playing with your children for different ages and like lots of activities to keep them occupied. Baby Sensory was a baby class I went to. It was awesome. So like it was all about developing your baby senses. It's really, really interesting. And then the Organised Mum Method, this is the Team Tom thing. It's about a Rhoda to sort of keep on top of your housework, and she does like loads of help and sort of recipes and stuff like that as well. It was just really useful for me whenever I was off on my both maternities. Choose your time wisely. If you do, it's well worth keeping technical and stuff on your year off, whatever it is that you decide to go do. But choose your time wisely and what you're going to invest that time in, because you don't want to spend your whole time sitting reading technical books on a beach in Barbados, wherever it is that you are. What I did was, I'll tip on to the next one. I chose a couple areas. So Scotland was actually an area that I invested in my last maternity. And what I actually did was I got an app called Solo Learn. Whenever I was breastfeeding the babies at night, I was reading the Kotlin tutorials, and they had like a lovely wee IDE built in. So they'd have the code examples all populated, so you could run it and then tweak it. And so this was what I was doing at 2 o'clock in the morning with one hand, doing a little pair programming, yeah. Like Twitter is great, like NI Tech Slack keeps you up to date. These conferences are brilliant. Like the biggest difference between maternity number 1 and maternity number 2, maternity number 1 I just read. I didn't do anything, I didn't challenge myself. Maternity number 2 I spoke at 2 or 3 conferences, spoke at a couple of panels at NI the Digital DNA. I got a new job. So like I had to go through the whole interview process and like do presentations and stuff. So it was that actually challenging and keeping your brain engaged actually made such a difference whenever I went back to the job. It didn't feel so alien to start back into that kind of environment, because I kind of kept my brain engaged the whole time. Whereas the first time I just read stuff, and then when it comes to actually like remembering how to do stuff, it was really hard. So yeah, those are just like simple things. Posts. So you've got you're coming towards the end of your time off, and then the couple of things that you kind of should really do. Touch base with your employer and get those agreements and stuff, about your role and stuff set up. This one is more sort of, I suppose, more around maternity. Outsource everything. This one is applicable to anyone. Like your time is precious. Don't waste it cleaning the house. Get a cleaner. Get someone to iron your clothes. Like it's money well invested. Like 20 quid. 2 hours a week, that's my cleaner. It's the best money I spend, swear to God. What's that, 4 pints? 3 pints? What's the price of a pint nowadays? Don't even know anymore. Your children will get sick, and this is something which is really worth noticing as colleagues. Whenever someone comes back from maternity or paternity, if they have a child that goes into any kind of childcare, I'm sure everyone will nod and agree with this, anyone who has children, they will get sick. And if they get sick, you get sick. They are little germ incubators, and they just pick up everything. And like one of the things I really stressed about, it was a friend of mine actually advised, stick them in about a month or so beforehand, get into that routine. They will pick up everything, and then it means you don't need to take off as much time as when you return back to work. But even when I did go back to work, and I'm sure like the guys will go like, oh, don't have to work from home again because the kids are sick again. I really stressed about it the first time around. Second time around, because I knew that was what the crack was, and my colleagues were much more supportive of it because they'd been through it. It wasn't as big a deal, whereas before, a lot of people hadn't been through that, so they weren't as supportive. So like, we as colleagues, like, it's okay if someone has to like leave in an emergency or go home. If you're having a bad day and you just need a mental health day, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, go take the time for yourself, look after yourself. No one else is gonna do that. No one else knows what's going on inside your head. If you need to take that time, go clear your head, take a wee day off. Like, you have holidays, we have like our sick days. Use them wisely. There's absolutely no point. You're useless to me if you're burnt out. As a manager, you are no good to me if you can't function and you can't do your job, you can't deliver. You know, if you need to take a day or two to go rest, recuperate, figure out, clear your head, like, I would much rather my team members would come to me and go, look, I need a couple of days to just figure things out. You know, I'm just in a bad place right now. I just need out of this office. I'd far rather they come and say that to me rather than coming to me in like a month or two's time where it's gone too far and it's a much more serious problem. So yeah, whenever you do return, a lot of the general sort of stuff again, discuss your working agreements. And this goes for anyone. If you want to work from home, figure out your policies of what your company offer. Most places now do it, it's not a big deal, but there is still guidelines around it. If you want to work part-time or not, there's, in Bizarre Voice actually, there's a guy who works part-time because he does open source projects. So he works 4 days a week for the company and then works part-time, so it just takes the fifth day in a week to work on his open source project. So it's not just, part-time working isn't just for people who have children. Like, it's for, if you want to just work 3 or 4 days in a week, it's up to you. There's nothing wrong with that. Just get those agreements and stuff in place. Have agreements for anyone with your childcare that, because, and this happened to me because production went down and also got the phone call from the nursery going, your child is sick and you need to take this child. But production was equally down and it was like, the customer was losing money. So it's like, what do you do? So like, I had another friend who could go and step in and lift the child out of the nursery, and it was, I had that in place. So think about those kind of scenarios of, especially if you're a developer and there is those production incidents, is there someone else in your team who can step in and fill that gap if you have to leave? The same as well for childcare, if someone can pick up your child or whatever. Supporting your returners then. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, regardless of that's childcare, if there's a sick relative. You don't know. You just don't know if people are burnt out. You have chats with them. Like, it's a steep learning curve, especially if they're a first-time parent, especially if it's like a close relative that's got cancer and they're going through that whole treatment. Like, go have coffee with them. Go take them out for lunch. Don't just, if you see they're suffering, don't just let them sit there and like be glum. Like, take them out for coffee. You don't even have to talk about whatever it is that's wrong with them. Talk about EastEnders or the new, what's the programme? There's No Place Like Tyrone. That's the talking point at the minute. Like, be flexible with them as well. Talk to them, listen to them, be there for them if they need you to do something for them. The flexible thing is, I really underestimated the change of parenthood would have on me as a person. And my priorities just flipped. And not in the way you would have expected. Getting promoted and progressing was much more important to me now because I was a role model to 3 children. I didn't want my kids going, oh, mommy just went to university and then did nothing. I wanted them to be able to say, I'm proud of my mommy. My mommy organises conferences and speaks at conferences and she works here and she does this. I want them to be able to say that to people, and that's what's important to me. Equally, I have people who were just as driven and just as fired up as me, and once they had children they just flipped and they had no interest in that stuff anymore, and that's equally okay. Everybody is different, and the same thing can happen with if you have an elderly relative or you just don't know what can happen. You may have a sudden absolute passion for baking and that may be your call to go to Bake Off and you don't care about coding anymore. Those things are okay as well. We just have to be flexible and work better with people whenever that's the case. This is just some practical stuff and then we'll launch into questions. These are actually really applicable to people who are just starting off and go out a lot because it's the same stuff I did as a graduate. Have a spare change of clothes and work. I'm not joking. And like a toothbrush and like a freshen up kit. The amount of times I've gone into work where there's Weetabix down my back. I did a 1-1 even the other day and I realised that there's Weetabix in my jeans. or worse. Those things can happen too. And it's just good having that change of clothes. Likewise, if you're out for a night, you know, when you stay out, it's a good party, and then you can just stroll into work the next day. Having a wee change of clothes there is equally good as well. I've also done that as well on nights out. Not since my new job, but definitely before. Having tissues and a wee place to get a bit of peace for yourself. There has been days, even with this maternity and my last maternity, I'm going to feel awkward now because some of my team members are sitting down there, where I've had to go. I just couldn't cope, and I just had to go and hide somewhere for 5-10 minutes just to look at pictures of my children going, I'm really missing my children. I just need 1 minute of peace and quiet just so I can look at my children and remember why I'm doing this. I'm doing it for them. And if, you know, that can be the same with anything, where it all can get too much, and sometimes you just need that wee cubby hole just to go and hide in for 5-10 minutes. And it's perfectly fine to say to people, I just got to go deal with something for 5 minutes. And like, you don't need to tell people what it is. They don't care at the end of the day. All people generally care about is what you can do for them and those sort of things. But like, it's okay to just go grab 5-10 minutes, sort yourself out. The survival kit, caffeine, head out calabates, you know, your first aid kits. Usually most offices will have them now, but whatever it is that you need to kind of get you through those days that are really hard, where you had no sleep, no energy, and you just need something to get you through. Emergency lunch stuff for those days where you just don't have the time to go out and grab stuff. It's always good to have just a couple of wee things in a drawer just to keep you going. Emergency birthday cards, because the amount of times I have got messages where I've been leaving work and all the shops are closed, and it's some kid's birthday in school or something, and you're like, oh crap. So like, it's well worth having a wee stockpile of emergency gifts and cards for things that just kind of pop up. And then obviously the agreements on the sick days and stuff as well. So that was a bit of a whistle stop tour.